Unit 11 is going to be about functions, and it's kind of a hodgepodge of everything. It's going to be compositions, which is what we're doing today, domain and range, which we've discussed before in Algebra 2, piecewise functions, and one-to-one. So just a little bit of everything. All right, a composition of something, think of something being composed of multiple parts. So you might see something that looks like this, which is read G of F of X, which in this case is -3, or it might look like this, G with a little circle F and then -3. Both of these notations are the same thing. It's saying that you want to figure out what F of -3 is, then plug that number into G function. Okay, so what it would look like with the graph is looking at the G of X, or F of X, sorry, I'm covering up G. Find F of -3. So on this graph right here, here's where X is -3. Find the Y value is what I'm looking for, which is 4. So then I would be finding what's G of 4. So then I would be coming over to the G of X graph, looking where X is 4, and seeing there's a point here at -8. So that would be my final answer, because they're wanting me to evaluate, which means to get a specific number value. Okay, let's try another one. This is F of G of 0 is how you would read that. So what we want to do is find the inner function first, G of 0. So make sure you're going to the second graph, and they might even switch these up on you sometimes, I don't remember. So when X is 0 on this graph, there's a point here at -3. And so then I would say, okay, I want to find F of -3. Cannot talk and write at the same time. So then I would come over to this graph, and when X is -3, I see a point here at -6 would be my final answer. Okay, let's try some without a graph, but using the equations. So here's this other notation. It kind of looks like golf, but it's G of F of -1. So I want to find F of -1 first, and then plug that into G of X. So F of -1 would be using this first function. So you could write the actual notation F of -1 equals, you're just replacing every X value with -1. And you could just do it on your calculator, but I could almost do it faster by hand. -1 squared is 1. -5 times -1 is +5 minus 4. That'd be 6 minus 4, which is 2. So then I want to do G of 2. So then I would use the second function, say that that's 2 times 2 plus 3, which would be 4 plus 3, which gets me 7. And then the last one is, looks like fog, but it's F of G of X. So I want to find G of X first, then plug that into F of X. So I would be using this one. So G of, and notice I don't even have a number, so I'm not going to be able to get a nice number like I did in the last problems. I'm going to get a function or an equation out of this. So I'm going to take G of X's function, which is here. I'm not even going to write this actually. And I'm going to replace G of X into F of X. So when I see X here, I'm going to replace it with 3x minus 3. When I see X here, I'm going to replace it with 3x minus 3. I'm literally taking G of X's function, putting it in for X every time I see it. Okay? So F of G of X would look like 3x minus 3. I would say quantity squared, meaning this whole thing's getting squared, minus 7 times 3x minus 3 plus 15. Here, I have to FOIL that. You can't just say that's 9x squared plus 9. You're actually going to get a middle term. And if you write it out twice, you should see that. So 3x times 3x is 9x squared. You're going to get a negative 9x minus 9x is negative 8x. And then negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Then I'm going to distribute my negative 7, and that would be negative 21x plus 21 plus 15. So my final answer would be my 9x squared You want to combine your like terms. Negative 18 minus 21 more would be negative 39x. And then 9 plus 21 is 30. Plus 15 would be 45. And so that's all we can do and to get our answer.